Hey everyone, welcome back to Self-Care Haven. Today I'm going to be talking to you about 5 covert manipulation tactics that abusive narcissists use. Now, I want to let you know that there is actually a video that uses my blog entry without permission and is monetizing that material for their own use, and I find that extremely narcissistic. So I thought I'd make a video of my own content because it's only fair and right that the author of the blog entry be presenting her material. So let's get to it. So the first covert manipulation tactic that I want to talk about is the idealization, devaluation, and discard phase. Now, if you don't know much about narcissism, you might think that in popular culture, the term narcissistic, which is thrown about quite loosely, refers to vanity and self-absorption. You might associate it with social media and taking selfies. This reduces narcissism to a common quality that everyone possesses and downplays the symptoms displayed by people with the actual disorder. What I want you to understand is, while narcissism does exist on a spectrum, narcissism as a full-fledged personality disorder is quite different. People who meet the criteria for this disorder are extremely manipulative. They can operate in ways within the context of intimate relationships that are incredibly damaging to one's psyche, due to their deceitfulness, their lack of empathy, and their tendency to be interpersonally exploitive. So it's important in any kind of relationship that we learn to identify red flags when interacting with people who display malignant narcissism and or antisocial traits, so we can better protect ourselves from exploitation and abuse. We can better set boundaries, make informed decisions about who we keep in our lives. Understanding the nature of these toxic behaviors can help us understand how they affect us and how they have an impact on our self-care. So let's get started. The first phase, first covert manipulation tactic that I want to talk about is the idealization, devaluation, discard phases. Now, these are 3 phases that the narcissistic abuser can subject you to in order to make you dependent in the abusive relationship and in order to make it harder to leave. So narcissists, and even those with antisocial traits perhaps, tend to subject romantic partners through 3 phases within a relationship. The idealization phase, which happens to happen during the early stages of the relationship, consists of putting you on a pedestal, making you the center of his or her world, being in contact with you frequently, showering you with flattery and praise. You're convinced that the narcissist can't live without you, and that you've met your soulmate. Now, you have to be very, very wary of constant texting, shallow flattery, and wanting to be around you at all times. This is not healthy when you're first dating someone. When you're first dating someone, you want to take things slow, but the narcissist fast forwards you, so you're constantly texting with this person, and you're so excited about the prospect of meeting your soulmate that you're so distracted that you don't even notice the red flags that the narcissist puts out there, which could be a short temper, or the way they treat someone else in front of you, or even things that they say that kind of evoke an instinct in you about whether or not this person is actually trustworthy, are ignored because you are showered with all this praise and flattery, and you are convinced that the narcissist is a good person. Now, this is a technique known as love bombing, and it is how most victims get sucked in. Most victims think, well, most people are cold and withdrawn and they play games and they're flaky. This narcissist, well, you don't even know they're a narcissist at the beginning. You think they're just a regular person. This person, pays attention to me. They actually give me the love and affection that I've always wanted and needed. Ooh, but it turns out that it's all a manipulative ploy. The devaluation phase follows right after that. It's when you're left wondering why you were so abruptly thrust off the pedestal, because the narcissist will throw you off that pedestal that they created for you in the beginning. They will suddenly start to blow hot and cold. They'll start criticizing you more. They'll start covertly and overtly putting you down through insulting remarks disguised as jokes, through constant comparisons with other people, which is also known as triangulation. I'll get to that technique later. They might withdraw from you emotionally. They start giving you the silent treatment when you fail to meet their standards. They start blaming you for the most ridiculous things that you had nothing to do with. Since this behavior actually relies on intermittent reinforcement, it's not all bad. So what I mean by intermittent reinforcement is that the narcissist relies on the fact that you'll still remember all the good things they did for you in the beginning of the relationship. So the fact that you remember what a great person they were in the beginning means that they can do less, but still get away with their exploitive behavior. So they will still throw in some, some of their good personality traits in there just to make you long for that idealization phase, but and to keep you hooked still into them, even though they're abusive. So even though they start to show more and more of their abusive self, they still put in some hot phases in there where they're still kind of loving and tender at certain moments. They still call you maybe a nickname that they called you in the beginning. They might still show a little bit of that tenderness that you first fell for in the idealization phase. So again, it's not consistent, it's hot and cold. So what we want to remember is that to the narcissist, we are a source of narcissistic supply. So what that means is we are basically a source of attention to them. We're an object. We're not real people. They can replace us with anybody, and they will. This comes to the last phase, the discard phase. Even though the narcissist can be quite jealous and possessive of you, they are prone to projecting the same behavior onto you. So even though they see you as an object, they will make you seem like the needy, clingy, and jealous one. You are misled into thinking that if you learn how to not be needy, clingy, or jealous, the narcissist will reward you with that loving behavior he or she demonstrated in the beginning. When you start to normally react to the emotional withdrawal, the stonewalling, the silent treatment, and the criticism that they throw at you, they start to call you needy, clingy, jealous. They start to say that you're too attached to them, even though they were the ones that set up those standards of the relationship of frequent contact and flattery and love and praise in the first place. It's a way to maintain control over your legitimate emotional reactions to their stonewalling, their emotional withdrawal, and inconsistency. They gaslight you into thinking that you're the crazy one, you're the unstable one, because you're reacting like a normal human being to abnormal behavior. Unfortunately, it's during this discard phase that a narcissist's true self shows itself. You have to understand that the man or woman in the beginning of the relationship never truly existed. The true colors are only now beginning to show, but it'll be a struggle as you try to reconcile the image that the narcissist presented to you with his or her current behavior. During the discard phase, the victim is completely thrown away like trash. The narcissist abandons his or her victim in the most horrific, demeaning way possible to convince the victim that he or she is worthless. This could range from leaving the victim for another lover, humiliating the victim in public, being physically aggressive, and a whole range of other demeaning behaviors to communicate to that victim that he or she is no longer important, he or she is no longer a suitable source of supply. Now, the second manipulation tactic that I want to talk about is gaslighting. Now, most abusive relationships contain a certain amount of gaslighting. This is a technique that narcissists will use to no end in order to convince you that your perception of the abuse is not an accurate one. During the devaluation and discard phases, the narcissist will often remark upon your emotional instability, your issues, and displace the blame of his or her abuse as your fault. Frequent uses of phrases such as, "you provoked me," "you're too sensitive," "I never said that," "you're taking things too seriously," after the narcissist's abusive outbursts are common. They're used to gaslight victims into thinking that the abuse is indeed their fault. And narcissists are masters of making you doubt yourself and the abuse. This is why victims so often suffer from ruminations after the ending of a relationship with a narcissist, because the emotional invalidation they received from the narcissist made them feel powerless, made them doubt their agency and their perceptions of themselves. This self-doubt enables victims to stay within abusive relationships, even when it's clear the relationship is a toxic one, because they are led to mistrust their own instincts and interpretation of events. Now, the third manipulation tactic that I want to talk about is smear campaigns. Now, remember that narcissists keep harems because they love to have their egos stroked. They need constant validation from the outside world to feed their need for excessive admiration and to confirm their grandiose sense of self-importance. They are clever chameleons who are also people pleasers, morphing into whatever personality suits them into situations with different types of people. It is no surprise, then, that the narcissist begins a smear campaign against you, because they're so fearful that you will expose them for who they are, that they start to expose you for who you aren't. They try to paint you as the unstable one, and this is usually successful with the narcissist's support network. And this network, this harem, usually consists of other narcissists, other people pleasers, other empaths, as well as people who are easily charmed. The smear campaign accomplishes three things. It depicts you as the abuser or unstable person, and deflects your accusations of abuse. It provokes you, thus proving your instability to others when you're trying to argue your depiction of you. Well, his or her depiction of you. It serves as a hoovering technique in which the narcissist seeks to pull you back into the trauma of the relationship as you struggle to reconcile the rumors about you with who you actually are by speaking out against the accusations. The only way to not get pulled into this tactic is by going full no contact with the narcissist and his or her harem, and that includes getting rid of his or her harem on any social media outlets. Basically cutting all contact with these people as well as the narcissist. The fourth manipulation tactic that I want to talk about is triangulation. Healthy relationships thrive on security. Unhealthy ones are filled with provocation, uncertainty, and infidelity. Narcissists like to manufacture love triangles. That's what they're known for. They bring in the opinions of others to validate their point of view. They also bring in former lovers, people they're interested in, and your eventual replacement into the dynamic of your relationship. They do this to an excessive extent in order to play puppeteer to your emotions. In the book Psychopath Free by Peace, the method of triangulation is discussed as a popular way that the narcissist maintains control over your emotions. And what more powerful emotion can they use besides jealousy? As you know, triangulation consists of bringing the presence of another person into that dynamic of the relationship, whether it's an ex-lover, a current mistress, a relative, your relative, even their relative. That's how sick narcissists can get. Or even a complete stranger. This triangulation can take place over social media, in person, and even through the narcissist's own accounts of the person. So they might be talking about that person a lot. The narcissist relies on jealousy as a powerful emotion that can cause you to compete for his or her affections. They use provocative statements like, "I wish you'd be more like her," or "They want me back into my life, they want back into my life. I don't know what to do," in order to trigger you into competing and feeling insecure about your position in the narcissist's life. Unlike healthy relationships where jealousy is communicated and dealt with in a productive manner, the narcissist will belittle your feelings and continue inappropriate flirtations and affairs without a second thought. Triangulation is the way the narcissist maintains control and keeps you in check. You're so busy competing for his or her attention that you're less likely to be focusing on the red flags within the relationship or finding ways to get out of the relationship. The last technique is the false self and the true self. Now remember that narcissists hide behind the armor of a false self. This is a construct of qualities and traits that he or she usually presents to the outside world. So to the outside world, they may appear charming, generous, kind, compassionate, when they are nothing but. Due to this armor of the false self, you are unlikely to comprehend at first the full extent of a narcissist's inhumanity and lack of empathy until you are in the discard phase. This can make it difficult to pinpoint who the narcissistic abuser really is. Is he or she the sweet, charming, and seemingly remorseful person that appears shortly after the abuse, or the abusive partner who ridicules, invalidates, and belittles you? I'm going to take a wild guess and say it's the second. You suffer a great deal of cognitive dissonance trying to reconcile the illusion of who the narcissist first presented you with versus the tormenting behaviors he or she actually subjects you to. In order to cope with this cognitive dissonance, which is further made worse by the fact that they engage in a lot of intermittent reinforcement, so they show their false self throughout the devaluation and discard phases, you are unlikely to understand the full extent of who the narcissist is, and you might even blame yourself for his or her behavior. You might even attempt to improve yourself when you've done nothing wrong but to act normally to abnormal behavior, just to uphold your belief in the narcissist's false self during the devaluation and discard phases. Now, the discard phase may be the most painful one of all. It is the phase where the narcissist reveals the true self. The ugly, abusive self rears its head, and you get a glimpse of the contempt that the narcissist felt for you all along. You bear witness to his or her cold, callous indifference as you are discarded. Victims struggle with that indifference. You might think that this is only a momentary lapse into insanity, but actually it's as close as you'll ever get to seeing the narcissist's true self. The manipulative, conniving charm that existed in the beginning is no more. Instead, it is replaced by the genuine hatred, the contempt that the narcissist felt for you all along. See, narcissists don't truly feel empathy or love for others. So during the discard phase, they feel absolutely nothing for you except the excitement of having exhausted another source of supply. You were just another source of supply for them. So do not fool yourself into thinking that that magical connection that existed in the very beginning was in any way real. It was an illusion, much like the identity of the narcissist is an illusion. It is time to pick up the pieces, go no contact, heal, and move forward. You are not only a victim of narcissistic abuse, but a survivor. Owning this dual status as both victim and survivor permits you to own your agency after the abuse, and to live the life you are meant to lead, one filled with freedom, self-care, self-love, respect, and compassion. I hope you've enjoyed this video. You can check out the longer blog post that this video is based on below, and I hope it's giving you the insight and knowledge you need to get rid of the narcissist in your life. Take care.